On the mic with Mike. On the mic with Mike. On the mic with Mike.
I'm on the mic with Mike. He's like a guru.
No, he's a businessman with a great radio show.
And he supports the non-profits.
Watch his show and grow. On the mic with Mike RVA is the best business radio program in RVA. It can be heard on the Miking Biz Radio Network on ESPN Richmond 106.1 FM and The Choice 105.3 FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike King here. This is the Mike King Biz Radio Studio, which is the global epicenter of social enterprise business. Hey, we got Origami Solutions is back. We're back at full strength. Tim and I, we were rolling solo. Yeah, we were just out there, a couple of guys out on the range, just doing our thing.
That's good.
Yeah, just doing our thing. Stacie Goodman is back. Tim Bazzani, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
All righty, real quickly, Tim, let's get it out the way.
Yep, sure. So we're Origami Solutions. We're an operations management consulting firm. So we provide affordable and accessible resources to help build a strong foundation in your business. Our goal is to help you level up with love and operate you towards our operational excellence.
Operational excellence, and we do that. Stacie Goodman, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I always joke with people and call them Renaissance men. But, ma'am, you are a Renaissance woman.
Okay.
I didn't know about the singing, and then I ran across that. And then I see you, just ballroom. That is correct? Ballroom dancing.
Ballroom
right?
dancing. Yes.
I am from Philadelphia, so I'm not all that cultured. How long have you been ballroom dancing?
10 years now.
10 years. Okay. You are an operations orders expert, correct?
I am.
You are. I would think that dancing like that is orderly. It looks orderly. It looks like steps, hand placement, and all those things right there.
Yes.
It looks like you would fit right into your professional world.
So it does. And the funny thing about that is when people ask me what my favorite book is, it's called Becoming Ginger Rogers. And it was written by a marketing executive who was in a similar, high-stress situation in New York, had a husband that was battling cancer, and they needed to do something to take some of the stress off. And so she had started ballroom dancing and then liked it and found out it was healing for her. And so she started out with a second teacher who was a Latin teacher, and the difference between the guys. And she was a lady who went in her black suit every day, and she was known in her business for being very micromanaging, meticulous, right? But as she started to learn to dance and started working with the creative industry of dance instructors, she learned how to release control. So for a woman in the ballroom or any kind of partnership dancing, generally the woman is the follower and the man is the leader. Now that can switch depending on who's doing it, but somebody has to lead and somebody has to follow. For women, and many times it's very difficult to be subservient and to follow. Wait for the guy to set the direction, try to absorb the communication, and then comply, right? And so you'll see in a lot of times that conflict when married couples come into the studio to learn to dance together. But it's because it requires so much communication. In the book, she talks about her transformation of going from this very stoic, business-oriented woman who would red pen everything that somebody gave them, to her team was confused because she stopped micromanaging and she started changing into colorful wardrobe because when we go out and compete, we compete in a lot of color, a lot of it's a big transformation. And she's this marketing executive, but she ended up coming here into Richmond, and her story was it was very inspiring because similar to me, I had gotten into a very stressful situation or point in my life with work, and my body was physically locking up, and my boss is like, you need to do something that is not work. And so I found this, and the way it goes with the process is, in competition, you learn basic steps. So there is a set of steps you have to learn, and then you go compete with those steps against everybody else that knows the same steps. And that's how they find the winners. And so you start at a bronze level, and there's a bronze 1, which is brand new.
I just came in the door.
Yep, I just came in the door. And then you can compete up to, if you master those steps and the performance quality that goes with it. So it's not just your feet, but it's your head and your face and everything else. Then you can go to bronze 2. Well, you can't, in our rules, you can't get one of the big fancy ball gowns until you are competing in bronze 2. And that took me a year to get to bronze 2, but that was my goal, to get one of them fancy ballroom dresses and not just a dress off the rack in the store. And so you learn, but there's so many elements that you learn, and so you have to learn to celebrate the wins and the accomplishments that are very small and incremental. So it aligned with us with incremental change equals long-term growth and development. It was a great parallel for that. So when you look at my Facebook, and there's one of the first showcases I did with a friend who I was very comfortable with, but we spent over 6 months working those 2 minutes, that showcase, that dance for 2 minutes. Then you look at the last one, which is in the purple dress that you saw with my current teacher, and that I had gone 9 years of learning and developing and growing. That was what we call silver open, almost gold. So there's bronze, silver, and gold level. Gold level is your top level, your pro, starting to move to amateur pro kind of thing. And so we are in a silver open, so it's kind of the top of that middle level. And the whole thing was about learning. For me, the journey and the challenge was to learn to be more expressive. It wasn't as much of the steps, though we did some real actual Dancing with the Stars type steps. It was learning how to share that story. And so it is a continual growth. You can't get from beginner to Dancing with the Stars, pro looking level, or even Charlie, D'Amelio star looking level, without having gone through a lot of growth, education, learning how to let your brain put the pieces together. And so, like, from a business perspective, when I work with companies, sometimes I'll introduce a concept or a homework task or something like that. It may take a month or so for the brain to process and click into why that works.
And that's what we had talked about last week, Tim, like incremental changes. Celebrate the win, the small wins. And I think sometimes people don't celebrate the small wins because they're like, I got to get to that point down there. And they don't see that, oh, well, remember when you were here and you were here. So we have to do that. That's where you talk about the expression leveling up with love. Yeah. Because some of those are tough conversations. Some of those are tough with the day as a teacher. Yeah. And so that's what you guys are at Origami. You guys are teachers of the process. Yes. Because like when you look at that, they're talking about footwork and the head. And, I'm an expert because I did watch Dancing with the Stars.
There you go. Then you've listened to Len Goodman. You know what it's all about. I understand.
Yeah, Len is the guy. Bruno was over the top. But, and they're all experts in their own right. And so when you look at a business, it is the maturity level. You see, you guys talk about it all that time, the maturity level of a business. So it works the same way, which is you see people from week one, like you said, how long does it take me to get to that next level? And then when you get there, like, ooh, okay, then you start putting the eye on the next level.
Right, because a lot of it is experience. You just have to go through the storm. You have to experience certain things to understand. It's not something that can be done in a textbook. And when you look at something like Dancing with the Stars and you have 3 different personalities, so you have Bruno, who's over the top. But his focus is rhythm, musical connection. So when you dance, you learn steps without music. You just
So that's what he's always
you
talking
learn the
about.
counts. Right.
That's what he's like, you're plodding through.
Right. And so when you learn the steps, and that's and certain technique, then you have to be able to listen and respond to the music. That's what Bruno's about. He is about if it's a fluid song, he wants to see that fluidity. If it's a hip hop type song, he wants to see the rhythm to it, right? In Latin. Carrie Ann is much more about connectivity between the partners, and extent. So she was an independent dancer. She was a fly girl, right? On was it SNL or in Living Color?
In Living Color.
And so in that scenario, they're dancing the same, right?
Because he's calling them out.
He's kind of calling them out to say, you're not pushing that person hard enough. They can do more. I see potential from what they're presenting. They can do more. You need to step it up, right? Or they may be saying, you wasted a lot of time because you're trying to hide something by all this other frou-frou stuff that wasn't content. And so he would call them out. And that's like calling some of the process engineers out, or, hey, we're saying you're wasting time with 8 approval layers. Find the decision maker, cut out 7 of them, and make it, one level, a decision maker. So we do look at those from those different perspectives. We have to look at stuff from a people perspective. How is how are the people executing the business processes? What are their roles? Do they understand their responsibilities? Are they overloaded? Have they been trained to be a manager if they're given managerial responsibilities? Those types of things. Then we look at it from a process perspective, like the composition of the dance. Have you put this system of processes, the interconnectivity web of processes to make something happen? Is that efficient? Is it effective? Do you have, are you showing, sandbagging, right? Or are you pushing yourself to a higher limit of efficiency and quality? And then we look at the executive layer, as well, and the compute, are you giving the tools necessary to your people and to your process? Meaning, I could have a software piece, to automate. So this is where AI and some of these things are starting to come in, or other systematic tools that can control quality, reduce repeatability, or allow a human to level up to where they need to do the thinking and the computer will do the doing. So these are we're like the Dancing with the Stars. We have to look at it from different perspectives.
So it's one of my Origamic Solutions. Tim is here. Stacie is here with us. And so that goes to a conversation that we had before, that a lot of times if people are in industries where they're creatives, so they're thinking, so Tim walks into a restaurant, the owners, it's like, nobody does things like me. And business owners always think, sir, you have a French restaurant. If I brought a Chinese chef in here, he would figure out how to make this work. So Tim, let's talk about what Stacie was saying. Was we take something that is non-traditional. We're putting together dance with processes.
Right.
Talk to the business owner, business person out there who's on the creative side, who they're thinking, you guys don't this. It won't work with me.
Yeah, let's shoot from the hip. Let's not put them in a box, and don't let them have some fun.
Yes,
essentially. And that's not the case. So if it's the restaurant, scenario, for example, they bring in a different type of chef. Well, there's still a lot of pre-planning before a meal is built, right? So individuals have to know, okay, what resources do we have available, right? If I'm looking for a certain cut of meat or a certain vegetable, well, can I source that? Yes, no. Okay, well then, yes. Okay, great. What's step 2? How much does it cost? Right? What do we need to put as a side? What's my garnish? What type of plate am I going to put it on? Okay, step 3, now I can start breaking down costs and understand, okay, if my cost is, say, $12, I can charge $25. Now I can break down profits. That brings me to my gross profit. We can then subtract everything else that we got to pay for within the business.
Labor and
Labor, overhead. So
legal fees.
now within that, as soon as we get to the cost part and we have all of the ingredients laid on the table, now I want you to go have fun. Right? Now let your creative mind
you're
run
saying,
free.
all right, so now you can have fun because we laid this part out.
Yeah.
So both my parents were tailors as well. And so my mom would have been, she could cook, but that cooking wasn't her thing. She was like one of the housewives. She could do the business side, that was her, but man, she loved clothes. And when she went into a material store, it was just like, she
I have that
found
feeling. I
her
can't sew, but I
place.
like material.
So she's in there doing all those things,
Yeah.
trying to put processes in order into that person. And we had our friend Sherry Wynn that we were with the other day, and we were talking about fashion. So you're talking about all those things, and all of a sudden you have to put order and processes in to stop everybody like me from shooting from the hip, Tim.
Yeah, so in a fashion world, right, the idea may come first, right?
Yeah.
Let's sit down and let's put on paper what I want this to look like. Okay, that's step one. Now I have my design. I know what the gown's going to look like. I know, if there's going to be a certain type of train on it. I don't know the technicalities of fashion.
But, sir, you were like me.
You get to have a little girl, you'll learn.
Yeah, but the idea of it is that you can, Tim, we don't know whether it's a tail, or a trim, a train.
Yeah.
But you can put processes in order to that.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're gonna have your initial design, which is the creativity part, right? So let's get that on paper first. Then we're gonna move to, okay, what material is gonna be the best for this? How are we gonna manufacture it? Am I gonna do it by hand? Is it gonna be outsourced? Okay, and then step 4, how am I gonna present it to get the word out there, and then how am I gonna distribute it? So it's a very simplified process, but repeatable, because then you may put this out at a fashion week, right? And that's your one-off dress. Well, the next time you're gonna be presenting in that type of event, well, just repeat the process. Okay, step 1, let's go through our creative stage, right? Let's create something new, and then let's figure out our materials, so on and so on.
And so that is very in parallel to the software development when we're making apps and things. There's a design phase, a development phase. Then we test it to see if it's going to break when we put, because stress testing.
It's all a stress test.
Right? Is it going to break? And then you market it and get it out. The fashion is very similar, where they have that design phase. The development phase, if you make, and I watch too much television, but if you make a dress and it's with a certain material, you have to hand stitch certain materials. That's great if you're going to do it once. But if I'm going to need to do it on a sewing machine, I may have to find a material that looks and sort of behaves like that, but I can put on a sewing machine if I'm going to make 10 to 15 of them for, let's just say, a show, right?
So that's what you bring to the table for somebody who's creative. I want to do this, but for a one-off, you can do it by hand. And you can even charge people
a lot of money
for that. But your expertise is saying, hey, how about if you found something else that looks like it and acts like it and feels like it, then all of a sudden we can use a machine. That is order and processes.
That's right.
That's best.
One of the things, I walked into Joann's Fabric and had the moment, right? So lace for women used to be hand done, right?
Yes.
And they talk about it on these, royal gowns and stuff. Lots of women want lace on, especially like a bridal gown. When I walked into Joann's, they have bolts of now lace it's machine made. They've made the lace and it has the sparkles and the beading and everything in it, and you buy it by the yard. And one of the things I saw on TV or Instagram or something is they're making like vests. You make a basic dress and then you put this lace overlay on top of it, and so it comes on and off. It's a much more probably affordable way of doing it versus hand stitching all of this onto the gown. It just overlays, and so I think that's where the creative techniques come in. After the designer creates this design and this gown, you have another person that comes in. So Tim and I, you fulfill a role called a business analyst, right? And sometimes we help in the design, but sometimes we help to troubleshoot the design of what's going to, we think, okay, well, that's great, but when we push this is probably going to break. And then we help guide the designer to give us an alternative solution, or we help come up with an alternative solution. But our job in the big in our bigger consulting gigs is really make sure it's not going to break after we deliver. And so we come in with that analytical. Now, that can be challenging to the recipient of us. Why do you keep messing with me?
Right.
If
I'm taking your pair of jeans and making sure they're not going to rip at the inseam.
Yeah, and so, or saying this is tight, maybe can you get a more flexible fabric? You start to challenge their design, but you're doing it to help them because you want it to be successful at the end. And that's something that, as teachers, sometimes it's hard for the student to absorb that feedback, right? Because it's a challenge to what they originally thought they knew. And so you have to have somebody who's willing. One of our kind of criteria when we're looking at clients is, are you open-minded enough to listen to a different perspective?
Tim, so when you ask a person that question, we're not asking them to raise your hand or put your hand on a Bible or take the Scout's oath. Are people honest about it?
More times than not, I think most people want to get their desired outcome, so they're open to feedback.
Gotcha.
I think very few people are actually closed-minded when it comes to their business, because they know when we come in, and at this point, before we deliver any of that tough love, I guess, quote unquote, we've built the relationship, we've set the foundation, and put proper expectations in place, so they know when we come at this, we are attacking it with the intention to make it better and not to belittle the product. So I feel that people are actually very open-minded in that scenario.
There you go, Origamic Solutions. How can people find you guys out there?
Yeah, they can find us on all major social media platforms under Origamic Solutions, so LinkedIn, Instagram. Our personal pages as well, Stacie Bradley Goodman and Tim Pisani, as well as our website, origamicsolutions.com.
We're in the Mike. I'd like to thank you guys. Take care now.